For Crima Media's Polity, Mtabi Madiba, political analyst Aubrey Majigli joins me to discuss his column, Crime Lack of Intelligence. What do you think are the main reasons behind this cash in transit, taxi violence and political killings?
Well, there are many reasons, but I decided in the column that I am going to focus on the state of the police force and the state of our intelligence community. Because to plan a cash in transit heist, if you are not just a small copycat player, you need resources such as finance, such as intelligence, and counterintelligence. You also need planning capacity. You need people with military capacity. And to respond to the threat posed by cash in transit heists to national security, you need a coordinated intelligence response on the part of crime intelligence, military intelligence, state security, and other intelligence formations in the country. So it seems to me that somewhere in the intelligence chain, there may be a problem of lack of coordination and cooperation between the intelligence entities within the intelligence ecosystem. But if you look at the fact that 10 top generals of the South African Police Service are being investigated for corruption involving billions of rands. Now, put aside whether the allegations are grounded in truth or not, but that fact on its own suggests that the upper echelons of the police are either captured or are susceptible to capture, and therefore constitute a threat to national security and state security.
And the revelation by the head of Independent Police Investigative Director Robert McBride and the Police Minister Biggie Cele regarding police officials often involved in crime says a lot about our crime intelligence. So do you think corruption in the police service is an endemic, or has it become systemic?
Well, without tarring all policemen and women with the same brush, we should be concerned about the possibility that corruption in the police service, including crime intelligence, is either endemic or systemic. If it is systemic, that would suggest that it is the dominant culture in those structures. If it is endemic, we can take cold comfort, I suppose, from the fact that it is not systemic. But I don't think we should, because if it is endemic, you are a few steps away, if it is not arrested, from it becoming systemic and therefore the dominant culture in the service. My concern is this, that when we do our threat assessments as a country, firstly, we must start from the political. The decade from Polokwane to Nasrec was devastating as far as political uncertainty is concerned, but it was also devastating as far as institutional uncertainty was concerned. And the integrity of many structures in the criminal justice chain, including the intelligence chain, was compromised. And as a result, I think if we do not look at this situation much more seriously, when it manifests itself, for example, in terms of the violence in KwaZulu-Natal or taxi violence or cash in transit heists, we run the risk of compromising national and state security quite seriously. And once that happens, you are not too far from compromising the democratic experience of ordinary citizens itself.
And you want that if we become unnecessary alarmist, then errors in analysis may occur. How so?
Well, I'm a civilian. So I'm talking about the intelligence environment as a civilian. But those who work in the intelligence environment are armed with tools, I hope, that analytically are much better than mine. I run the risk of being alarmist. But I wrote this column specifically for those who work in the intelligence environment. My aim is to say to them, as a civilians, what I see are gaps in the intelligence chain. If I am not being alarmist, do something about the gaps I'm talking about in this column. If I'm being alarmist, then I'm happy, because it would mean that our intelligence community is on top of these threats.
And as you have stated that these crimes constitute a threat to both national and state security, are there any major steps that the police and the intelligence environment can follow to do away with these crimes?
Well, first of all, I think we should look at the question of the quality of training, where we source our intelligence operatives from, vetting processes, because you have people who are intelligence operatives and it turns out they have criminal records, sometimes serious criminal records. That says something about the vetting system. My concern is that we've been talking narrowly about state capture. State capture has become a political football, a knobkiri that you use against your political opponents. I think that the danger we face is not only that of state capture, but state capture in another way. In the sense that when you have our intelligence community having its capacity as compromised as the violence in KwaZulu-Natal, the taxi violence and the cash in transit heists suggest, then you have the possibility of infiltration. In other words, you have the possibility of power becoming divided between the state and criminal syndicates. So infiltration can happen at two levels. Our intelligence communities can be infiltrated by criminal syndicates, but they can also be infiltrated by foreign elements. And they may also become susceptible to what I call deep state activity, when criminal syndicates, rogue intelligence elements, senior government officials, rogue elements in business, and rogue politicians cooperate in pursuit of a common business goal. Deep state activity may be facilitated by weaknesses in our intelligence chain, therefore.
And you say that a coordinated response in the intelligence environment is critical. How can they coordinate?
Well, you need coordination first at a political level. The policymakers must be able to give direction to the intelligence community. But the intelligence community itself, through the quality of intelligence it gathers and the analysis it gives to policymakers, must inform the political decisions of policymakers for three reasons. Firstly, in the public interest. Secondly, in the national interest. And thirdly, in defense of national security.
And can you explain to us why it is possible that state power and the power of world resources criminal network can come into both competition and conflict?
Let me give you a simple example. Let's say you and I run a criminal syndicate. And remember, criminal syndicates cross to and fro the line between legality and illegality. They operate both illegally and illegally. They set up front companies that operate in the legal environment, and they set up other structures which operate in the illegal environment. So that's the first thing. For them to operate effectively, they need capacity at different levels. They need legal capacity. They need financial capacity. They need intelligence capacity, which they can source either from private intelligence sources or by infiltrating state agencies. Therefore, by having state intelligence capacity rented out to them. And once that happens, another thing that may happen is that such criminal syndicates may develop counterintelligence capacity. In other words, they may be able to counter the intelligence of the state, in which case you have the real danger of a dual power, the power of the state versus the power of criminal syndicates coming into conflict and in competition with one another.
Do you think it is possible to create a society that is qualitatively superior to the antithesis of apartheid society?
I think it is. We are at the moment in the process of trying to create a society that is the antithesis of apartheid society. But being better than apartheid cannot be an end in itself. What we must strive for is the creation of a society that is qualitatively better even than this society we are trying to create, which is the antithesis of apartheid. And I do believe that is possible. Now, some of it may call what I'm talking about a new dawn. The new dawn, if indeed it is a new dawn, is simply one step amongst many towards the kind of society I'm talking about.
And lastly, the Portfolio Committee on Police are having a special cash in transit hearing. What are you hoping will develop at this hearing?
Well, I think some of what I'm saying will be ventilated. But to the extent that political communication happens both in the public and private realm, I think a lot of the more decisive decisions and steps and measures will be taken not in the public realm, but in the private realm of political communication.
That was political analyst Ebri Majiki speaking to Creamer Media's Polity about crime, lack of intelligence.